Hark, hear me, brothers of old. Listen to this tale that I tell of podcasting about a film that we saw today.
No, we're not podcasting. We're scalds.
Scalds.
Regaling tales of valor and
Valor.
and heroics.
I'm not really known for my valor.
No,
I'm mostly known for having a juicy ass.
That's why we're regaling. We're retelling tales of valor.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. Do thou have any takes about the Northman? Hello, everybody.
Yes, I do.
We're
but
going
first.
Yeah, we got to do because there's many things going on here. Hi, I'm May.
And I'm Neo, and we're distracted because our cat's being an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, don't start with us, Cindy. Don't you even start.
I'm
going to lose my mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna deal with this.
Okay, go deal with this.
I'll
entertain the
stall
people
for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I can do that. So, hi everybody. Neo's getting the cat, putting the cat in the back room. While this is going on, I want to thank Machine Age Productions and their project #IHunt. I promise that this is not my first ad read in history.
We'd also like to thank the YouTube show Blood Thing and Animate Dream Studio. It's an Etsy store. More about all of those later on in the show. We also have a Patreon. It's
patreon.com/excrement.
Excrement.
And also, I wrote a book called Fluids that some of y'all motherfuckers be knowing about. Read it. It's gay.
Yeah.
So, today on the podcast, we decided to do something bizarre and new for us, something we've never done before, which is go to a movie. I think they're called a movie house or like a theater. Basically, it's a dark room where people go to jerk off to cinema.
It's a moving picture.
Oh, a moving picture. So we went to see a moving picture in a cinema, in a movie house, and we got our little popcorn, and we watched Robert Eggers' new film, The Northman.
I should also say we're going to be talking about spoilers, so if you want to watch the movie unspoiled, which I would actually highly recommend.
Yeah, this is an analysis podcast, primarily. Yeah. So we're not really concerning ourselves with
So we're
reviewing the film.
Since this movie just came out and it's actually very, very good, we're gonna throw the our conclusions of the movie first, so you can know what we think about it. Then we're gonna talk about it. So we're gonna do more of a traditional movie review.
Look at you with the structure.
Look at me. Look at me.
All right. Well, in that case, in short, Neo. What did you think of The Northman?
I thought it was very, very, very good. I mean, it's Robert Eggers.
Wow, good shot. It's Robert Eggers.
Eggers. That's what I said, isn't it?
You said Robert Edgars.
Edgars. His name
like many Edgar Allan Poes, like many Edgars.
Listen, Eggers. He's full of eggs.
There you go.
I would almost never mind. But no, I liked it. See, it's like The Witch, but for dudes.
It's like The Witch, but for dudes. That's what I said about The Lighthouse. I was like, this is like The Witch, but for dudes.
The Lighthouse, I haven't seen it.
It's more worker culture-y.
Well, it's also more like Sigma male-y, from what I understand.
Well, I don't know about that one. I mean, it's an anti-capitalist film.
Right, but people misinterpret that. Like,
sure, of course.
I have seen it used as as an incel Sigma male movie. So, be it like, I mean,
there are multiple scenes in that film where Robert Pattinson, who played Dracula that one time, a long time ago. Anyway, he jerks his cock off to mermaids.
Ooh.
So that's pretty incel-y.
Yeah. So
they're his dreams of mermaids, by the way. Yeah. Also, I really want to apologize to everyone at home for having to hear me say the phrase "jerks his cock off."
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Anyway,
that one's.
So it's a movie that deconstructs masculinity in a cultural sense using the method for that is a period piece in set in the 9th or 10th century AD in Norway / Iceland / Ukraine.
So it's like what 480 area?
It's 800 to 900, I believe. I think it was like 860 or something like that.
Okay. So is this before or after Jesus Christ?
So it's after Jesus Christ. They actually mention, and I'm gonna.
How do you know when Jesus Christ existed? Do you know?
Yeah, it was. He was born in like 480.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And actually, just side note, since I'm a giant fucking history nerd, the movie like mentions the Varangian Guard, and I was like, ooh. Anyway, because I'm a giant fucking dweeb.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're a giant fucking dweeb, I think this movie is very rewarding.
Yeah, well, and it's like it's like you don't. Okay, yeah, so you don't need to know a lot about like history and Norse history and mythology and Viking shit, but if you do know a lot about it, it rewards you for it. So it's like you won't miss anything by not knowing it, but if you know it, there's just like an added level of like depth to a lot of things that I really
same
like.
I think is true of The Lighthouse and The Witch as well, where it's like they're stories that are set in history that are actually stories about the modern times. Like The Witch is a movie about patriarchy and how it manifests today.
Right.
Which is that the familial structure of dad leads the way, daughter is like gonna have to follow along is still the way things are, and it's still justified through faith, even though faith like only gets people so far, and if somebody's like a fuck up, faith isn't gonna fix that.
Right. Well,
like,
blind faith isn't.
Exactly. Well, and so that's a very modern story told in a like a perspective that's something we traditionally don't see.
Right.
But there's a quote, I don't know who it's from, but it says, often we look to the past to see our future. You can see the situation you're in through the narrative of the past a little bit easier at times. So I feel like Robert Eggers, like, yes, he is a history nerd, and yes, his primary function is that he really, really likes portraying history like directly on screen in the most accurate possible way, but also he's a good filmmaker and good storyteller. He's a lot to say.
He has takes, and he's trying to communicate takes to people.
Yeah. Well, like The Lighthouse is literally like climb the ladder, see the light, right? Like climb the corporate ladder and you'll see the light.
Right.
And the light is just a light.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's like incredibly anti-capitalist, like The Lighthouse. And yet like incredibly simple. And I feel like The Northman is the exact same way. It's just like all of these movies are very historically driven, but also reward you for caring more about what it means on some sort of ethereal, like, you know, socio-political level than anything else.
Right.
And so The Northman, I liked it.
I did.
That's my take.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I watched it in the theater. I was like, is that Bjork? This is good.
She wasn't in there for very long, and I was kind of bummed out.
I was too. She didn't sing either, which I thought was also
no. She should have, because there's a lot of singing in the movie.
Yeah, I kind of liked that element, the fact that
the
people
music.
I like the musical elements of it. I kind of
diegetic music.
Yeah, well, like, yeah, it's kind of like if you were doing a Shakespearean thing. It's like, well, you know, parts of this would be traditionally sang, and that's like even more enjoyable. But that's fine.
Yeah,
you know, whatever. It's also in English, you know, and it's like, well, this wouldn't be fucking in English if this was history. It's kind of hypocritical, right? Because it's like they want to have this be the most historically accurate version of this particular culture ever, but also only half the time is it actually in the language.
Yeah.
And the other half the time it's like, well, we put this in English so that people would understand it. And it's like, it's a fine translation. I don't think translations are necessarily bad. But
it would have been really cool if the movie was subtitled, though.
And the whole thing was, yeah. Well, and I mean, like, that's the direction I probably would have gone.
All right. So, without further ado, to the summary of the film.
Yes.
So
what happened? Or before we continue, if you are a baby and haven't seen the film yet, it's okay. One day you'll be a man, and you'll have seen it. But today might not be that day, and you might need to fly away, little butterfly. That's okay. You can come back after you've seen the movie, and we'll talk to you about it. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Spoiler time, bitch.
Yeah.
Spoiler time.
So, the movie basically starts with the main character. I can't remember his name because they don't say it very much in the film. I think it's Am something.
Hamlet?
No, AM.
His name is Hamlet.
No. But, okay, so the movie starts with his dad coming home from a raid, and then his dad takes him to a shaman where they put shrooms in mead, drink it like dogs, and then have a giant shroom trip, father,
Right.
son, and shaman, where they indoctrinate the child into the masculine practice
Of sacrificing oneself in war.
Yeah, so the dad's like, "Hey, I'm gonna die in battle, and when I do, you have to avenge me. Like,
No matter how long it takes.
no matter what,
No matter what it costs you.
and because like the reason he's been thinking about his mortality is he got stabbed, and it isn't fatal, but he's like, I'm reaching the point where at some point I recognize that I'm gonna die and go to Valhalla or Valhalla, how they say in the movie, which is like the more accurate pronunciation.
Right.
Valhalla. And so his mortality has him teaching his son, because normally parents are like, hey, when I die, here's how you do the inheritance, here's what you do when I die. And he's like, what you do when I die is no matter what, you avenge me. And until you've avenged me, you can't have honor. But once you've avenged me, you can have honor. And you can't fear death. And you can't show fear. And the kid's crying because his dad, he like takes off his band. He's like bleeding.
Right, he learns that his dad is mortal.
Yeah, and he's like bleeding from this like
And his
wound.
dad's like, yes, I am mortal, and so are you, and I'm going to die soon in battle, and then you will also die in battle.
Yeah, but you'll have to avenge me first. And then the kid starts crying because he's on shrooms, and this is all insane. And then they grab his tear and they're like, this is the last tear you will ever shed. Like, this is the last time you can cry.
Yeah.
And then he like grabs his son and like makes him put his hand in like his wound, and he like sees the family tree, and he like has this like vision
of his own fate. And he basically builds his own fate in that moment.
Yeah, and so he has his fate, and then they're done with the trip, walk out. The dad gets just fucking killed by his brother.
And then Hamlet has to avenge the death of his father.
Yes.
From his uncle.
And his mom gets kidnapped. And so he has this mantra where it's like, I will avenge you, father. I will rescue you, mother. I will kill you, uncle. I can't remember.
Yeah, and then Hamlet says, to be or not to be, that's the question. And is it better to experience the boldness of outrageous fortune? No, okay, this is a joke, but also the story is very oddly similar to Hamlet.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you mentioned it.
And also his name is like Amli.
Yeah, that's like something.
Amli. Or something like that.
And you're like, Hamlet.
Well, when I was watching the movie, I was like, why is this like Hamlet? And then at one point, Nicole Kidman's like, Hamlet. And I'm like, is his name fucking Hamlet? Like, Jesus Christ. I can't believe this is Hamlet.
Anyway, so he escapes from Norway, ends up in the Kievan Rus, and becomes a berserker. So he goes from acting like a dog and doing shrooms with his father and shaman to him and about 20 to 30 of his homies all doing shrooms and becoming bears and wolves, so
and
that
then
they
going
can
and
kill people.
murdering and raping and enslaving an entire village.
Yes, of the Rus. So he does that, and he's participating in this, and he's like really good at it, and everyone likes him. On another side note, they included seaxes in this, which I thought was really neat. It's the big daggers they had, like the long ones, and they're really cool because they're like incredibly heavy, so you could use them to chop, where normally you can't use daggers because they're light.
Right.
But they just made really, really heavy daggers, so you could like cut rope on ships, so you didn't need an axe.
Right.
Anyway,
I see.
I think they're really neat, and like there's no representation of them except in this movie. But anyway, so they're talking about where they're going to send all the slaves, and he finds out that the person who killed his father, his uncle, is actually in Iceland now.
Yeah.
So
and basically, because he made a grab for the throne, then somebody else made a grab for the throne. He retreated and ran to Iceland to basically stew about it, have a little farm, and get over it.
So
cope, seethe, mauled.
Yeah, he made a grab for like the local throne because they had like the kings and they had like the king. So he made the grab for the throne, and the king was like, "Hey, it's really not good for the law and order of my society if you can just kill the minor king and become king. That sounds like it would be horrifically unstable. So you need to get the fuck out of here. Like, I can't let that happen."
He's kind of exiled.
Yeah, so he goes to Iceland, and so the Amsel just cuts off his hair.
Hamlet
brands himself as a slave and sneaks onto a slave ship going to Iceland, where he meets
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, I can't remember her name either. They don't say many names in this film.
Well, also, the names are names that we aren't necessarily the most familiar with in the West, so hear me. Forgive me, because I don't know this shit. Anyway, it's history's shit.
Yeah.
But it is I'm here to talk about the story.
Yeah, so he meets her, and she's kind of a... oh, wait, no, we forgot the Bjork. So as they're
forgot the Bjork.
As they're pillaging the village, he goes in and he finds their shaman, who is Bjork, and she's like, "Hey," and it's his name, son of like the Raven King, and he's like, "How the fuck do you know who I am?" And she's like, "Well, they poked out my eyes, but I'm a shaman, bitch." And then she tells him his fate, which is to go and like avenge his father. She's basically been like, "You're running away from your fate. You need to go like carry out your oath, like regain your honor, avenge your father, and you have to go to Iceland or whatever." But she's also like, you have to find this like magic sword and then kill him at the gates of hell. And so he's like, "Okay, go to Iceland, find magic sword, kill at gates of hell. Got it. Easy. No problem. That's my fate." So he gets on the boat. He meets Taylor-Joy's character.
Anya Taylor-Joy's character.
He meets Anya's character. And she is like, "Hey, you're definitely not a Slav. And you're definitely not a slave because you're a crazy fucking berserker, dude." So anyway, so she like catches on. They get brought to Iceland. They're both sold to his uncle. So then he spends a good part of the movie being a slave to his uncle. And just like...
And he's like a really, really good slave, but he's like, "But I will make his life a living nightmare."
Yeah. So he decides that at some point he's going to make like just turn this farm into like a
Hell's
horror
nightmare.
show.
Yeah.
So to find out how to do that, he goes to this guy's shaman who has killed his father's shaman and still has his head. And he's like, "Yeah, the way I shaman is like cut off some hair, throw it in the fire, and then the head talks." So he has a conversation with his old dead shaman, and he's like, "Hey, there's this sword that you that's your destined sword. You need to go get it, but you can only open it during the night or at the gates of hell,
right? Because
it's a magic sword."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, go find the magic sword. Got it." So he goes, like robs the grave, and here's where the movie introduces something that I think is really interesting, where there's two versions of a scene. One is where he like tries to like take the sword, and then the corpse he's robbing turns into a jogger, and like a Norse zombie, and they have this epic fight, and he kills the jogger, to get his destined sword.
And then the other is like the reality where he just like takes it right out of the
walks
fucking
up to the
thing's
skeleton and pulls the sword away and then leaves.
Right.
And so
He's kind of obsessed with tales of old.
Yeah, and so something this movie does is you have their like mythological religious interpretation of the event where in his mind he's like robbing the grave and there's the Draugr and all this, but it's like and then the like
the literal
he walks over and takes the sword. And so anyway, so then him and Anna Taylor-Joy proceed to like terrorize the farm and do all this like weird shit.
They murder a bunch of people.
Yeah,
they put their bodies in disgusting ways.
Yeah.
They give the soldiers shrooms in the middle of the night, and then they get so terrified they cut out their own faces.
Yeah.
Which is very funny.
Oh, wait. Well, there's also an important scene before he decides to do this where he's just like scoping out being a slave. They have this festival where they go and like play a game against another group of slaves where it's like uber violent hockey, where if someone has the ball you can just beat them with your stick and that's totally fair.
Mm-hmm.
And so the appeal of the game is all the freemen watching slaves beat the shit out of each other with sticks. And he's obviously very good at the game, well, mostly
because he fucking kills
he's a badass fucking berserker. But so in the end, it's literally just him and this other like giant, like violent motherfucker on the enemy team. But at the start of the movie, his uncle had a baby, and then his uncle kidnapped and married his mom, and they've had another kid. And so this other kid is like so the main character feels really protective of the second kid. Because he's like, oh, we're brothers.
Yes. So
there's a scene. So in the game, when it's just the two of them left, the kid is like, oh, I want to play. So he like runs out with the stick, and he gets like knocked over by this big dude, and he's like lying next to the ball, and the big dude like lines it up. So he's gonna hit the ball, but the ball is like right next to the kid's head. So he's also gonna absolutely kill this child.
Yes.
And so the main character like loses his shit, goes into his berserker rage, and like headbutts the dude to death.
Like to death.
To death.
Like headbutts him to death. It's amazing.
Yeah. And so anyway, they and so he's terrorizing the village or the little farm until he like kills his uncle's oldest son. And then he goes to his mother and he's like, hey, it's me. And then his mom tells him, is like, hey, I actually hated your dad. Your dad fucking sucked. Like, at least your uncle isn't abusive to me. Like, he may kind of suck, but he is so much better than your dad, who is shitty. I told him to kill your dad. He didn't want to do it. That was all me.
And she's like, and then he's like, oh fuck.
Well, and then she's trying to get the sword from him.
My mom's the villain.
Yeah, so she can kill him. So she's like, but if you kill him, you can marry me, and then we can be like the power couple. And she starts kissing him, but she's like trying to get the sword from him.
Yeah, and it's like really, wow.
Yeah,
Nicole Kidman incest moment.
Yeah, so that's actually the scene where he goes and kills the oldest son. Anyway, so then everything just keeps on escalating, but there reaches a point where Anna Taylor-Joy is like, hey, like, we can just fucking leave. Like, we can escape.
Yeah.
And I'm pregnant with twins. And he, like, because she was, like, bleeding from the neck, so he, like, kisses her wound, and he can, like, see the future, and he has this vision of their kids, and he's like, fuck my fate, like, my kids are what's important,
right?
So he has this moment of like this moment of clarity where he's like, I don't give a shit about my uncle and my honor. It's like I need my kids' fate's what's important.
My family's
what's important. So
I can have a different thread of fate.
Yeah, and so they're gonna go escape. They get on a boat with a Slav, which I think was really interesting, that they had like a Khazar-esque fucking Slav.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other actor's name?
Oh
boy.
yeah, he's Ralph Iverson. The guy
Ralph
from
Iverson is this like Cossack Slav boatman. So they like pay him. They're gonna like leave, and then the main character's like, hold up, wait a second. What in one of the things about his fate that was prophesized was like, so at some point you're gonna have to choose between loving your kin and hatred for your enemies.
Yeah.
And he has this epiphany where he's like, hold up, what if I can put the two fates together and do both? What if hating my enemies is loving my kin? So he hops off the boat.
I need to go murder this motherfucker.
So he hops off the boat to go back and kill his uncle. What ends up happening is in trying to find his uncle, he kills his mother and his brother. And right after he does that, his uncle shows up and is like, well, at this point, I don't fucking care anymore. So he literally like he shows up, sheaths the sword, picks up his dead family, and is like, well, and also like a volcano just exploded. He's like,
I will meet you at the gates of hell.
Yeah, he's like, I will meet you at the gates of hell. I'm gonna go bury my family. Fuck you. Like, you fucking asshole. So he takes his family he buries his family. They have this epic confrontation. Hamlet kills his uncle, but dies in the process. And the final shot of the movie is a Valkyrie riding down from Valhalla to bring him to Valhalla.
Yeah, and he's looking upon it as like this amazing moment where he's like secured the thread of his fate.
And he sheds a single tear.
Yeah. Toxic masculinity.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, there's a lot to interpret out of this movie, and there's a lot to talk about. We're unfortunately not going to be able to talk about everything we want to talk about. And even before we start talking about that, we need to go to ads.
Yeah, let's do some ads, and then we can do some
ads.
Analysis, bitch.
Yes.
All right.
What's our bait going to be this week?
Hey, kid. Hey.
Hey.
Do you want to buy some drugs?
Yes. What Here, drugs do
let me
you have?
Let me open my comically large trench coat.
Oh, okay. Okay, Silent Bob.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, what the fuck? Okay. Wow. Now I don't know if I want to sell you drugs anymore. All right. Fine. Money's money. Okay. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Okay. I got right here. I got some. I got some Ambient Dream Studios. Okay.
And what's in that particular drug?
Okay, well, that one is like this Etsy company that makes these really cool posters that look like acidy, kind of like, but they're landscapes. It's very beautiful. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool shit. It's kind of like a chill experience. Like I would say like 15 to 20 minute onset. You'll have a great time, but I probably wouldn't do it if you're looking to like dance and have fun. You know what I mean? It's more of like a chill out. Relax kind of experience.
What else do you have?
Yeah, okay, so right here, it's the equivalent to meth, pretty much, or heroin. Well, no, not heroin. Heroin's a little bit... Anyway, it's more like a methamphetamine. Anyway, it's #iHunt. Makes you go crazy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. Anyway...
And it's also best to do with a group of friends.
It is, yeah. It's basically it's the methamphetamine of tabletop RPGs.
What else? Well,
I got to tell you more about it.
Drug. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's about the like gig economy shit, like Uber and shit. Well, it's that, but you're like a monster hunter, right? Yeah. So that sounds like crack.
What else do you got?
You ever just take a hit of crack and you're like, woo? I'm ready.
Not really, but
well, that's how I feel after I play #iHunt.
But for the sake of the ad, yes.
Yes, you know all about that. Anyway, yeah. So and then over here we have some psychedelics. I know you like psychedelics. Well, I got some shrooms. I got a dirty bag of shrooms here called Blood Thing. Yeah, that's right. It's called Blood Thing. That's the strain. It's crazy. You see shit. You like take them.
What do you see?
Well, you see like this little guy. He's like a little bloody guy, and he sponsored a cool show that I did called Hexen last week, which was really super cool. But anyway, Blood Thing, yeah, is a little blood thing. You know, it's hard to define what blood thing is.
What a blood thing is.
Yeah, because it's a blood thing. I mean, if it was something more specific, it would probably be named differently. But anyway, so that's a trip.
What's that? What's that book you got in the trench coat?
The book? Oh, that's my. Oh, you don't want that. Well, okay. So this is kind of. Well, do you like ketamine?
Yes.
Okay, so this book is basically like that. In that you'll be going along just fine, and then all of a sudden the floor will fall out from under you, and then you'll fall into doom. That's basically my book Fluids, which you can buy at nickspears.bandcamp.com/merch. Oh, hey, what, so some people that are like communists, they like this one particular drug called patreon.com/excrement. All you basically do is there's no real pill. You just kind of pay me money, Neo specifically, pay Neo money to continue to make the podcast.
Yeah.
And do more advertisements,
Yeah.
basically. And then, yeah, you get a high five.
Oh yeah. Give it to me. Hell
Yeah. All right. So anyway, do you want to buy any of this shit, or do you want me to slink back into the darkness?
Slink, foul drug dealer. That's right. It's vampires now. No. All right. Back to the
Northman.
Northman. Real quick, and so something I want to get out, because I think it's a part of the movie that can go missed if you're not looking for it, is the main character and his father. Their primary god of choice was Odin.
Yes.
Who is like the all father, the king of the gods. He's like a warrior, but he's also like cunning and smart.
He gave his eye in battle.
Yeah, for knowledge. And then the bad guy and his family, they all worship Freya, who's like the god, was like family, magic, hearth kind of god.
Yeah.
And the reason I say this is there's an element of this movie where early on the main character is told, it's like, hey, like, don't try to understand women, don't try to be like them, don't try to understand,
do not empathize with women,
don't try to understand their
they
magic.
understand you a lot more than you'll ever understand them, so don't try.
But also follow them because they're smarter than you and they're more cunning than you, so you should listen to them and follow them. Don't try to learn their magic or their ways. So in a part of, it's an interesting, like, I mean, it's a through line through a lot of
rule number 2: do not be like pussy.
Like, well, it's an interesting through line because it's him and his father are following the masculine father god.
Yeah.
Where his uncle and their family are following the mother god.
Yeah.
Where and then his father and him are both more interested in their sagas and their fate and their glory in battle, whereas the uncle ultimately just kind of wants his family.
Yeah.
Like, he's a family man. Like, he's more interested in maintaining his farm and
having slaves
and having and also, like, his dad had slaves. Like,
everybody had slaves.
It was
it's
kind
not
of
a
just
good practice.
ubiquitous. Like, if it's
a shitty practice.
Were a slave or had chattel slaves. So I'm not trying to moralize it, but like it's just true.
I mean, he is the somewhat better alternative to that absolute son of a bitch who was his dad.
Yeah. Even though he betrayed the Raven King, the Raven King kind of fucking sucked.
Right.
Yeah. So there's this element of of him seeing all women as witches.
Yes.
And as people who have this like womanly magic and who he needs to be careful, but and he needs to trust them because they're smarter than him, but he can't learn their ways, which is a really interesting aspect to this movie.
Yes. I mean, I think that there's like the obvious thing where it's like literally and like analyzing the traditions of masculinity.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
masculine urge
the
to die on a hill.
yeah, I mean it's literally going all the way back to like where the origin of that coming from whiteness, like where that it predates Protestantism.
Yeah.
Like it's all with the masculine urge to die on a hill has always been there, and the feminine urge to beg your man to stop doing it, but he doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's funny that he ironically falls into his fate because he's like, I will reject it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, wait, now I have some shit to defend.
Right.
Fuck.
But he doesn't reject it in a way that's like, he doesn't reject it in a way that's like, that's healthy.
No.
Well, no. Well, but he rejects it and then he decides to lean into it. But, there's the moment where he realizes that if he abandons the hatred for his foe's fate, and if he chooses just to love his family, like he could turn into his uncle, and that he could just be a happy family man, and he could raise strong warrior children.
I think an argument could easily be made here that the reason that he does his big suicidal violent act at the end is because he's terrified of being his father.
Yeah.
Like he's scared of being his father to his own kids. Like he doesn't know how to be a father, is terrified of the idea of raising kids. Yeah. And so he literally just does it so that he can abandon his family.
Right.
The masculine urge to abandon your family and call it self-sacrifice.
Yeah, and there's even this like a part where he's like I have to protect us from my uncle, and
he's just
Taylor
coming up
Joy
from for any reason.
It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like he's
on a boat.
We're on a boat. He's banished to Iceland. Like the fuck is he gonna do? Like he's not
Leave
even
him
a king.
The fuck alone.
He's just a
you
fucking
killed
farmer.
his fucking children.
Yeah.
Surely that's enough.
Yeah.
No, and so the thing is, it's less about doing what's right and more about doing what you're told.
Right.
And the thing is, when he was a kid, he was told you have to die in battle to go to Valhalla.
Yeah.
Well,
you have to die in battle and you have to avenge your father. Like.
Right. You have to die in battle. You have to avenge your father. You have to save your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mom doesn't need saving. Dad is not worth doing revenge for. And like Valhalla awaits those who end their life prematurely and don't get to live a fulfilling life of, family and self-satisfaction. They like, it's literally like a Berserk story.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's two ways to view the end of the movie. And depending, and it changes how you have to see the movie, where there's the interpretation of in his mind, it's the interpretation of like he dies and goes to Valhalla, and that's like the end.
Yeah.
Where and that's what's shown. But there's also the interpretation of it's like, well, that's what he thinks happens. Like who knows what happens when he actually dies. That's
right.
And so there's an interpretation of it of well, he won and it's great because he gets rewarded for his sacrifice. But then there's the interpretation of, well, or he just died and Anna Taylor-Joy has to raise his kids without him, and
which is objectively the real.
Yes, and he's just fucking dead.
Right.
Like,
so he has abandoned his family more functionally.
And so it's like, and so going into this movie, I watched a couple like reviews of it.
Yeah.
And what the reviews said was it's really right wing and it's really bloodless. Both of those things, I would argue, are very, very, very wrong.
Yeah, neither of those things are true.
Because if you look at the movie from he's just dead because of his masculinity, because he couldn't break the conditioning of his childhood.
Right.
It becomes a movie of the masculine urge to die on a hill fucking sucks. Like, reject that urge,
right,
and take care of your family.
Yeah, well,
Where-
so I feel like anybody saying it's right wing is literally like that guy who's like wearing the Burzum shirt and is like, I need
He's
one
in
ticket to the
Valhalla,
Northman.
bro.
He went to Valhalla because he defended his wife, his love,
Someday I'm gonna go to
his
Valhalla.
children, his family. He defended whiteness.
I'm gonna shoot
I
up.
hate this guy I'm being.
I'm gonna shoot up the Batman too. Kill myself and go to the Valhalla, and I'm gonna be with him, dude.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a good argument to be made for, like, Robert Eggers is asking himself the same thing I think a lot of us are asking ourselves, which is like, why is it that so many guys just justify blowing their brains out over the dumbest, stupid shit?
Yeah.
Like, so, like, this, like, school shooter mentality of people just running in, killing a bunch of people, and then going to Valhalla, this is still going on. This is still like in our culture. It's actually returning to fashion, this idea.
Right.
And
Well,
they can justify it because, like, very literally in the last moment of their life, they feel righteous.
right. Well, and even like there's an element of it where there's multiple Viking heavens, and Valhalla is only one of them, and that's like the warrior heaven. You know, that's
Right.
That's where you die if you were honorable and died a warrior. If you die a family man, you go to the family heaven where you are with your family. Like,
Right.
you go to like I think it's Freya's in charge of that one, but you just go to the family heaven. And it's like, and you're not in the bad place. You're in like the I'm an adult and I'm a parent heaven. And so it's not even like, Valhalla is like the place where everyone wants to be, but also the family heaven's pretty good, especially if you are, you can reject the masculine urge to die on a fucking hill and choose to be happy. Like,
Right.
And like literally he has this line where he's like hatred and vengeance are the only things my heart has felt. And Anna Taylor-Joy is like, okay, can we feel something else? Can you fucking not?
Can you fathom feeling something other than that?
Yeah. Can you love your
Or is that
kin?
literally all you got?
Yeah. I historically I was a very, very angry person, but it was just a fucking coping mechanism,
Yeah,
and
of
it's
course.
like, something I had to learn is if I would like to be happy and fulfilled in life, I can't be angry at literally everything.
Right.
And
Like, it doesn't actually help you.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, perceiving everything through like the red lens of rage isn't a healthy way to live life.
Right.
And that, that's what this movie's about. It's like you can either like be angry, like radicalize yourself to a violent suicidal death, or you can just fucking not. It's not even hard to not. Like,
it's like you
not,
literally can just not.
yeah, it's not, and it's not that hard to just go and not be like a berserker dead man.
Yeah. You can just not go die.
Yeah.
I know it's tempting, boys.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, it's just reject the urge. Like,
Well, and I'm also just gonna mention that I thought that it was interesting that the main character looked like Varg through several periods of his life throughout the movie. I thought that was great. I thought that it was interesting that anybody in there that was like, yeah, black metal, return to traditional whiteness, goes in there and watches this and is just like, what?
yeah. Well,
What
okay. So
happened? I don't know what
we
happened.
should describe our movie going experience.
Why are all these women talking?
Yeah. So there were the four of us.
Oh God, yeah.
There were the four of
fucking
us.
masculine urge to ruin a movie for everybody
Yeah.
in the
There were
theater.
the four of us. Then there were 2 rows of like 10 dudes each.
Yeah,
And for the
Fucking
first
nightmare.
like half of the movie, it was awesome because we're all like, it's like we would all just talk with each other, but not not directly, but like we would say something, then they would respond to it, but not talking at us. Anyway, it was fun. It was a good vibe. We were all watching a movie together,
Yeah.
and engaging with each other, and then someone makes a joke, and someone stands up and says, "Fucking say that again," and the guy's like, "What?" He's like, "Say it again." What? Crack that joke again, bro. He's like, "I'm sorry." He's like, "Okay, shut the fuck up," and sits back down. And it's like, and then the rest is fucking silent for the rest of the movie because it's like, no, we were all having a good time engaging with the movie, and you had to do the very thing the movie is telling you not to do. Like, the entire movie is like, hey, don't do this thing. And this guy's like, what if I died on this fucking hill?
Yeah, what if I just like, I mean, the people that the guy was yelling at, they were just like, you know, a group of friends. There wasn't many people in the theater, and they were just kind of like quietly whispering amongst themselves about the movie. And then this guy like starts yelling, and it's just like, so what has been accomplished?
Yeah.
Do you think
Are you having a good time, bro?
Yeah, it's like they were just engaging with the film.
Yeah, you know,
like I don't really have a problem with people talking during a movie if they're talking quietly amongst themselves about the film.
In fucking movie tavern, whichever.
Well, and they weren't yelling at us.
No,
you know, they were yelling at this like quiet person right in front of us.
Yeah, cracking a joke to his friends, and like this isn't a quiet theater. We were at like, you know, the fucking shitty AMC, you know, where it's like. My brother and Thor. Like, if you want the quiet experience, go to the theater where they're like, we'll kick you out for talking. You know?
Just fucking.
It's like cope.
The masculine urge to ruin a movie.
Well, it's just but it sucked and it made the movie less enjoyable to watch. But at the same time, it like you couldn't have like tried to make a better example of what the movie was talking about than that. Like, it was the perfect example of like it's just continuing to hammer the movie home. I think if Robert Eggers could include that experience with every viewing of the movie, he would. Like, if he could plausibly like include that experience in the movie to hammer home the point, it would be an effective way to hammer in the point.
Right. Well, and like, I don't know. I think that as I was watching this, I couldn't help but think my big thing was just like, okay, American auteurism is a thing that we are going to experience now in our lifetime, or at least we really are experiencing it. You know, the previous generation had like Spike Jonze and like Michel Gondry, people like that. We've got Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, and Jordan Peele. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that I would consider to be auteurs, but like the ones everybody seems to be coming out and talking about every time they do anything is Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, and Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
And like, these seem to be the three that we're going to be hearing about for a while. Mm-hmm. And I think in the lineage of Robert Eggers stuff, he's very successful at doing exactly what it is that he attempts.
Right.
I feel the same way about Ari Aster, but you haven't seen any of his movies yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to force you, after literally when we're done here, I'm going to force you to watch one of them, because you just if you like Robert Eggers, you will like his movies. Mm-hmm. It's just American auteurism. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that. Mm-hmm. But also Jordan Peele is like, I think the prime example of this, where everybody will literally stop what they're doing to see what the fuck he's talking about today.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The movie left me with this kind of like, I keep hearing this thing, I've heard it forever, that there are no more auteurs and that film is dead as a dead medium.
Have they tried not watching a Marvel film?
And it's like, I understand that Disney
Northman
has a conglomerate over everything, but there are auteurs working right now, and they're great, and we all agree that they're great. And it's not that they're few and far between. It's not like there was a time where everybody was an auteur and there were like a billion of them. You know, like there are probably more auteur filmmakers working today than ever before. And if you aren't seeing that, then you're fucking lazy. Like, I hear this complaint all the time where it's like, we never see it. stop being lazy then. Go look for it.
It's like that.
It's out there.
That dumb shit. And we're not going to say his name, but we were
Christ.
watching this YouTuber, and he was talking about a specific genre of movie, and he was like, they used to make this all the time, but now they never make these because blah, 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 blah. Like shitty fucking takes coming out of his mouth. But then it's like my brother in Christ. It's like the movies you bring up were made over like 20 years, and you've brought up like 4. It's like these movies never frequently came out.
Yeah.
You're just looking at 40 years of cinema and being like, well, why can't we have 5 movies like this every year?
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just like, what do you fucking want, really? I want relevant stories told by good filmmakers occasionally.
Well, and
I want fulfilling meals, right?
Yeah.
I don't want empty calories. And so I get the idea that it's like, oh, I want 1 billion fucking auteurs. Cool, neato, Cheeto, but I like having a couple occasionally having their food and then digesting it over the course of time and then moving on.
I was legitimately grinning ear to ear the entire film. Like everything was just delicious. It's like every morsel in this movie was like nourishment to me. Like, and it was just like, it's like I am fine with Robert Eggers taking his sweet ass fucking time to make movies if this is what I get. Like, yeah. It's like every single moment of the movie was incredible to me.
Yeah. And it was, and I don't know. It just left me feeling this kind of weird cold, like, wow. I can't believe we're going to look a gift horse in the mouth again.
Yeah.
Again. Like, I remember when I saw The Witch, I was like, wow, this is the birth of new American auteurism. Yeah. That's literally what I said when I left the theater. I was like, right. I feel like this is going to be the birth of new American auteurism. And I was right. Somewhat, I guess. There was stuff that came before that was like really pushing it. But that was something. The Witch was something. It was only $1 million or $2 million, some bullshit.
Well, and something you said earlier in this podcast that I didn't want to bring it up when you said it because I wanted to have a summary of the movie before I talked about it. Right. But how The Witch is a movie about the patriarchy and a modern look at women under the patriarchy, especially teenagers, under their fathers,
and how they're still being influenced.
Still being influenced through the lens of the Puritans,
right?
And I think this movie, beyond just being about toxic masculinity in general, is also a look. It's the same exact look of how does like the influence of the patriarchy affect young men, right? And how does it's kind of like the Jodorowsky thing we've been talking about, where it's like how does the father's passed down masculinity impact the son,
right? And also, where is the origin of this stupid idea?
Yeah.
Like, where did this stupid shit come from? And I understand that Viking culture is real cool and shit. And I also understand that history is real cool and shit. But I like that Robert Eggers does not stray away from what it is, the culture. Like, what it is, it's good ideas, it's bad ideas, everything that represents it from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So that the next time some dumbass black metal asshole like Varg is like, we should return to time when we were Viking.
Right.
You can be like, yeah, okay, but that objectively fucking sucks for everyone. And also, we're still doing it.
Yeah. Well, it's like Viking culture in specific is interesting in terms of like Western culture, because they did a lot of like they did a lot of really weird things that other Western cultures wouldn't do for a while. So in terms of like culture, they kind of were. I don't like to use the term like advanced, because I feel like a lot of people talk about cultural advancement and they get really fucking racist.
Yeah.
But in terms, but comparing them to like the Anglo culture and like the French culture, they did a lot of things that we can look at today and be like, wow, that's real interesting that at this time period they were doing that when everyone else would start to have these ideas significantly later. And so I don't know, and it's just like in specific, it's a really great, interesting culture and an interesting time, and it really sucks that it's just been co-opted by Vargists,
Like
by the Vargs,
fucking weird fascists.
Yeah.
Well, and like I don't know, I think that this and The Green Knight both are kind of like good examples of movies trying to analyze the origins of our stupid masculine urges, like as a culture, like why Americans do the stupid bullshit that they do.
Right.
Well, and like I once was in a philosophy class, and my philosophy professor at the time said that he thinks that if we really want to get school shooters to stop, we need to convince them that God will punish them in the afterlife. And he's like, so I think that the way we do that is we reinstitute the Bible as education and foundation in schools. And then we start teaching people about Christian values. Well, and so as he kept talking, I was just like, isn't that self-defeating? You know what I mean? Like,
isn't that what got us here?
Because, like, yeah, that's literally what got us here. The constant, weird, reappropriative urge to die for some dumbass purpose. And I'm not saying that Jesus died for some dumbass purpose, but also he did, and that's kind of the point. Right? Like,
well, every dumbass thing that would classify it as a sin, Jesus died for. So the one time you jacked off to Sonic porn, Jesus thought about that as he died on the cross.
Yeah, that's what he was thinking about. He was like, I'm going to make sure that Neo gets to heaven, even though he spunked for the fucking blue hedgehog pussy. Yeah.
Pussy, excuse you.
Pussy. Oh, okay. I didn't know it was a femboy thing. Sonic's a femboy. Anyway, okay. What time we got over there, Neo?
Oh, it's about time to wrap up.
Okay, we can wrap her up.
Yeah.
I hated it personally. I thought that the movie sucked.
Yeah, why didn't he rant about black people in it?
Yeah, come on.
Why didn't he talk about how cool it was when the Vikings had an ethno state?
He should have been like, we cannot trust the people at our borders.
No.
He should have been like, drugs are bad and we should arrest people who do them.
I love Viking content that's not shittily like right wing. It makes me happy.
Look, it is a male feminist. And then he hits him with a sword. God. No, okay. It's gold for me.
Absolutely.
I liked it. I think Robert Eggers is yeah, as I said, one of like in my brain, one of the best filmmakers of our time. He's going to continue to blow our minds for a hot minute. I think that we are in a period where as long as he doesn't swap to Prime and start doing a motherfucking stupid series where it's like an adaptation of some stupid Neil Gaiman book, then I think we're going to be fine, guys. I think we're going to have Robert around for a while. And I think he's going to be making good ass shit. And I like what he's doing.
You should really call him by his Norse name.
What's his Norse name?
Robert the Egg.
I want to die.
All right. See y'all next week.
Bye.